Theater Club in New York City. Hello, good afternoon from La MaMa Experimental Theater Club in New York. This is the official opening of, from the other side, the small festival of the Balkan Theater that we're presenting in New York from December 4th till the 14th. So today, let me do first something that Ellen Stewart always did in front of her every show, and that means ring the bell. So we can start the conversation. We have a fantastic number here of the guests today, and let's do it. So I'll give the mic to Dimitrije Kokanov, who is the moderator of this. And let me remind you that this is the live streaming of the event, available every time for years and years to come. You can go back at the HowlRound and listen to it as many times as you want. So hello everybody who is listening in other countries of the world, especially in Europe, because it's only 7 p.m. in Europe at this moment. It's not midnight like in Asia.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Dimitrije. First, I would like to introduce everyone on the panel today. Cvetković. Cvetković is a producer and theater producer and artistic producer in general, and she's founder and president of My Balkan Foundation. And she's actually the person who started all this journey that we started together. So, welcome, Becca. Then Professor Tanya Domi, the professor on Columbia University on Balkan Studies. Am I right?
Yes.
Hello.
Yes.
Theater critic Natasha Tripney. Natasha works as a critic in UK and on Balkans also, and now in US. And Mirjana Karanović, one of the best regarded and most influential actresses from the Balkans and in Europe. And then theater director Andrej Nosov, and also a founder of Artifact. Hello. I would like to start this conversation on the topics of relation of art and politics that we named Art is or Politics and Politics with the first question for Professor Domi. Maybe the best way to start speaking about relation of politics and art in Balkans and in general, but in Balkans for this situation, is to define the notion of Balkan and the concept in the cultural and political sense of that word.
Yes, thank you so much, and I want to thank Becca and also La MaMa Theater for this opportunity in bringing this to New York. It's very, very exciting. The Balkans as a defined geopolitical location historically has been seen as insular and defined by individual ethnic groups that have gone to war against one another. And that is actually been part of the fiction about the Balkans, which some of it is true and a lot of it is not. As a matter of fact, during the course of the Bosnian War, President Clinton hesitated to move on an intervention because he had been given the Balkan Ghosts book by the author, and he was like, well, that's just generations of people killing each other. And one of the things I tell my students is that let's put it in the context of Europe. Therefore, the Balkans isn't necessarily insular and not looking out into the world, being engaged in the world, because Europe itself has had many, many terrible wars. So in that context, I think it misses the richness of the cultures and the ethnic groups that live in the Balkans. And it actually nullifies them in a way, painting them as, you know, sort of atavistic subjects that attack other human beings. My experience, which is pretty profound, I lived in Sarajevo, I lived actually in Bosnia the first 4 years after the war, and I had been working on the Balkans from Capitol Hill during the course of the wars. And then I later lived and worked in Montenegro as well, and I am third generation Albanian. And what I come away with in terms of the politics is that there is a geopolitics that exists, and there's formal governments. And then what I'm seeing right now, what's happening right now, which I think is shaping art and the experiences of people, is in the post-war generations in all these countries, the LGBTQ movement, the gender-based outrage by women throughout the region, and how art reflects it and how the film reflects it. And unfortunately, because I live in the United States, I don't get to see theater in the region. But what I do have a great love for is the film. And I think this first generation of filmmakers post-war have delivered some of the most just beautiful films that tell the story. And I just want to compliment Mirjana, because A Good Wife is a profound film, which I saw in New York many years ago, but I will never forget it. And I always think, does anyone in Serbia look around at their fathers, their brothers, their sons, and question, were they rapists? Who did they kill? That always strikes me. I always think about that, taking that film in mind. And of course, Grbavica by Jasmila Zabanic and Kovačić, which is Kovačić Aida. These are profound films. And actually, in my teaching at Columbia, and I teach on human rights and the international relations of the Balkans, I've changed my pedagogy. I bring film right into the classroom to teach them about the experiences, because these films can show and educate them in ways that I'm incapable of. So I think the idea of the Balkans, and now in this time, there's like the Balkans, and then there's the geopolitical organization of the Balkans called the Western Balkans. And those are the 6 countries that have not entered the EU. Some of them are in NATO members, in the case of Albania, Montenegro, and North Macedonia. And there's what we also, in the background, is the transition and the pathway to the EU. And we've seen a lot of insults thrown at the Balkans. I mean, Macron in 2018 said to all these budding and aspiring democracies, we're going to change the rules in the middle of the game, and you're not going to be able to join the EU just right now. And that was a deep blow. It was a deep blow to all these countries. And then what we have now is of the rise of autocrats, starting right here in the United States, and we see them, you know, from Putin to Modi to Erdogan to so many individuals that are now Netanyahu, that are running the countries of the world, and I consider it a perilous moment, and I am sure that film and theater is going to try to explain this to people from the Balkans. I just also want to say that that Bosnia And my friends that I have made throughout the region completely changed my life. And I wouldn't be sitting here engaging with this incredible lineup of people and how they've contributed in a way without these experiences. They are indeed rich, deeply rich. As a matter of fact, I also bring to mind the film by Ines Tanović, The Sun, which was a really powerful film about a family that was in conflict after the war, and they didn't understand their son and what he was going through and how he was processing the war. And so it is a powerful experience to witness. And in many cases, I personally witnessed reunions after the war in Bosnia. I actually have been to the cemeteries. I have been a witness in Podgorica for the Srebrenica genocide. And these things profoundly affect you. And there's always the effort by the artists, by the filmmakers, to outpicture that through their interpretation and the modality of their art form. So that's how I see it. But now, in the geopolitical frame, there's a second post-war generation, and they are banging on the doors. They're doing it in Belgrade, this demonstration by young people because of corruption is so profound. It's never happened in the Balkans. This demonstration is now over 1 year old. And secondly, what you're seeing is a rise against femicide, gender-based violence, and of course the LGBTQ movement, which is throughout the region. Yet today, even though this has happened, it's a very difficult life for LGBTQ people day to day. And they shape culture, and they shape the art of that culture. And I've witnessed it. So that's how I see it. I'm a witness, and I appreciate the artists. I feel great indebtedness to them because they help me teach my students. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now, after this great and wide contextualization, I think that because our festival, actually, we like to call it festival, is named from the other side, and the way we look on that side, the Balkans, and this side that we are now in, is something that actually Beka initiated almost 2 years ago, and this is actually the first kind of event, that actually showcasing the different aspects of performing arts here in US, and dealing especially and only with examples of art in theater in Balkans. So we are here having 2 live performances, 3 stage readings, and 3 productions on videos, like archive videos of the 3 productions, on theater productions, and this is one of 2 roundtable discussions. So Beka, I think during your whole career, actually, you were the one to fight and for producing and providing the space for a different artists and different art fields in movie also, and theater and music on Balkans and wider in Europe. So can you tell us something, how do you merge politics and Balkans in your work?
Well, how many days do we have? It's a long story, but in short, I would like first to say, to actually react to what Tanya said, because all these reasons that she said and some of the examples in film business that she put out, that's it, guys. This is why we're here in New York. because I think it's high time that the Balkans are shown in its glory, and I have to say glory, to the audiences in New York City, not only to the audiences of former Yugoslavs who live here, of course they're coming, they're welcome, and so on, but also to the very profound and very intellectually oriented theater audiences of New York City. I think this is a moment to say also that we are doing our best to get the audiences, and one of them is that 2 days ago we even got the New York Times to say that this is one of the things in the cultural world of this city that should be seen, especially this festival and what's in it. So I'm very happy that this is happening, and I'm asking the audience who is maybe listening to us and who is in the tri-state area to certainly come to La MaMa, because this is very unique what we are doing and presenting it here. There is a special reason why we are here at La MaMa, and as I'm sitting here, I'm looking at Ellen Stewart, and I'm remembering the times, how many times she came to the Balkans, how she loved the Balkans, and how she really, really fought politics to bring La MaMa theater to the Balkans. And I'm very glad and happy that her love, her friends, she in a way gave throughout the house of La MaMa, and obviously, most importantly, to the head of La MaMa at this moment, Milieu, the artistic director, with whom 2 years ago I just went to a just occasional lunch, and at that lunch we got this crazy idea. She pushed me a little bit, I have to say, to this crazy idea to bring a portion of the Balkan theater to New York. And here we are. This is not an entertainment 2 weeks. This is a really important political view toward the Balkans, because through every single show or reading or video or conversation that our dear audiences are going to experience, we ask them to think. We ask them to go home, to remember what they saw, heard, or whatever, and to think about this part of the world. Why is it so? And how has this influenced that person? Because all of it has a very strong political message. I won't go into the details because I want the audiences to come and see. But I feel that we have chosen really, it was very hard to work on choosing the repertoire because there are so many good things in the arts on every corner and many theaters in the former Yugoslavia. But I think we chose some examples strictly done by contemporary authors from the former Yugoslavia, strictly done by really people who are not only actors, directors, authors, but through their work, they're activists. They're political activists. Whatever they do, they write, they perform, and so on and so on. I'm sure that you're going to hear more about that at this panel. So, yes, I did work for a big American foundation or international foundation for many, many years. And everything that I did there also was on the verge of art or human rights and politics. Because the moment when you start helping those non-governmental organizations in the Balkans, whether they do human rights, whether they do gender-oriented things, whether they are in legal issues or media, you become a political factor. You are doing politics, no matter, oh yeah, I'm doing art, so it doesn't matter, this is just this production, but it has a political meaning. So it seems that, in a way, almost all my life, professional life, I worked on that edge. And you know what? I love it. And that's why I opened the foundation. When I left the Open Society Foundations, I opened my own foundations with exactly that theme and that reason, because I want to bring wherever I can, of course, unfortunately, always depends on the finances, wherever I can, productions to show the world that in this horrible place that many say, oh, the Balkans, Balkanization and so on, there is a wonderful arts and culture developments in every sphere that needs to be really widely seen. And I hope that this is just one of the first steps that we're bringing here to New York. I know that La MaMa has hosted many good productions or individual artists from the Balkans through many, many years because of Ellen and now because of Mia, and just this world continues. But this is the first time that we're bringing something together with the one mission, with the one goal, and we're bringing really various aspects of that work that is done in the Balkans. I can go till tomorrow, so I think I said enough, and I'm very glad that we are exactly bringing these two live productions because they're so different, they're so diverse, and what is most important, they're not done by institutional, big, huge government-run theaters. These two theaters that we're bringing are really the sparkling stars which are creating the political artistic scene of the Balkans. It is the socially engaged arts and its height, not to mention the wonderful artists and the big names that New York is going to welcome in the next 2 weeks.
Okay, so let's continue about providing the safe space and safe space for work in the field of art and also in human rights field. Artifact, Andrej Nosov. I think that Artifact is actually one of the greatest places and that provide opportunity for the different artists to even think about their position and to produce art. And also I think that the bold approach that Artifact is actually having during all those years is something that is quite unique in the region. So can you tell us also something more about that connection about art and politics? And maybe then we can also again hear from you, Becca, maybe because you opened that also relation of finances in art as something is quite political. So.
Okay, first of all, thank you, Becca, for invitation, and thank you, Mia and La MaMa Theater, for hosting this wonderful opportunity. I have mixed feelings with your question because, you know, I'm one of the artists or one of the producers working a lot around Europe with different theaters, and always when you say Balkans, people expect you to do some bloody art. Some victim will come up from the mass grave and tell you the truth about the existence. And I'm sick and tired of this narrative of the war. It doesn't mean I don't believe that we should speak about the facts from the past and what has happened and what we're going to live and what the future is going to live. But this expectation from the audience that the artist should speak about the past is really scary, people. And that's one of the things which politicians actually expect from us, especially now in this moment, and especially those who do not support our internal governmental processes in the Balkans. Always when it's hard, you turn to the art. And that's their logic. If they don't entertain you in a moment of your celebration, they should warn you in a moment of your desperation. So I think very, very important thing is that and I will not say anything new, that people who work in this intersection between politics and art in the Balkans do it not just because they believe in that, but because those are the topics and the things that they live through and that they are part of their experience. And speaking about your own experience and speaking about your own inner, I would say, processes, it's something what actually art should be about in many ways. So I don't find it, and I understand, and thank you, Tanya, for this contextualization of everything what we do. But I find it very difficult on a daily basis when you wake up to say, oh my God, I'm doing now something very big in that context term, like I'm going to build something big. But on the other side, what we try to do, and what I think is very important for what you asked, Dimitrije, is this community of resistance, I would call it like that, because even though you have this very bad bloody politics, you have very huge community of resistance in the whole region. And support to that community is something what actually people here in United States did for a long time, including Becca, not just Becca, but many people. And I think that's something what people should think about while they are coming to this festival. Yes, it's a festival. It means it will go on, because that support is very important. Sometimes when there is no bloody war, when there is no bad news, you don't care for that part of the world, which is fine. But there are people still working and thinking about the things and trying to survive in this very harsh environment. So I think that the politics in the art is natural. The art in the politics, it's good, but if it's not out of celebration or desperation, if it's just a natural part of that, and then the finances come along with that.
Yeah, but when I said like bold approach, I didn't mean only about speaking about wars and war victims, but for example, Andrej was the first director in our context in region that directed Martin Sherman's play Band. So that was the first time that we saw Band on stage, and it was in 21st century. So that's maybe we were late for it, but obviously not. So I think that's also something that is quite important for me. When I think about your work, I first always think about that you were the one to choose and to did that on stage.
I just don't think we should see artists as special people. Yeah. We are not. So our society was like, or our theater community or some crazy student from the school was ready in that moment to do Martin Sherman, and for previous 2 or 3 times, people in our region were not ready to do that. And I really believe that, you know, and that's the reason why I'm saying community of resistance, because, you know, Dobra žena, Mirjana Karanović mentioned here, was actually her inspiration and answer. Sorry for speaking about you, but as I remember that, thinking about the past and actually thinking about this and understanding this very particular role which we have as citizens, as mothers, as wives, as people, how to react, but not from this, I would say, political perspective, but this story was actually inspirational to open up the whole perspective which we don't speak about in our society. Also about LGBT rights and the gender movement, I would say, you know, people react because they're not free, because they feel that they don't have freedom, space to speak loudly, to do things which they want to do, and also it's a part of our social, how to say, situation. What we see in many cases that funding narratives expect from us to be bold. I expect from funding narratives to be bold, you know, because they have to be bold. It's not a question that there are people who will do bold things. It's a question that there is not enough resources for those people, that there is not enough governments and money and foundations and individual donations and all of that to support, for example, some of the underground artists we know in the Balkans, because our government are not giving zero this year for any support, which is fine for you here in the United States from the perspective of how the arts operates here, but there we are post-socialist land, so everything is connected to the state. So when we complain there is no money, it means there is no anything. There is no infrastructure. There are no things which here operate operate in a different way. So just to end it, I believe the artists were bold, but also, you know, we are not fearless. We are not without, how to say, doubts, without questions, without, especially if we are doing something very tricky, very sensitive, not just in connection to the war, but with the other things, you're just trying to somehow speak up about the things or say something what is very, very important from the perspective of being a citizen of this part of the world.
Thank you. And also, 2 days or 1 day ago, we spoke on this subject, and Mirjana, you made a great point about that art and politics, even when it looks like there is a friction in between, that actually art is political or is always political, and to work in the field of art and to produce art, it is a political thing to do. So we are all aware that during your whole career, you were the one, as Professor Domi also mentioned, in several movies, and again in theater also, and in public speaking. You were the one who pushed it to make a connection and to communicate the huge problems through art. So I wanted to ask you about that responsibility that you believe artists always have when they do their work.
I always felt responsible in the theater since my early age. I was at the theaters since my 14th year of life. So I always thought about the people in the audience, and I, in these early days, when I even didn't know what the politics are, it was just Communist Party and Tito and I don't know. But I was responsible for the people in the audience to be the best I can in this moment and to give them the best. So all my life I feel I carry this responsibility. But later, after my country fell apart, I felt responsible. Not for the falling the country, but for the wars and the lost lives and all this language of hatred and this war that so many people cheer up for the war and conflict. And I realized that there's another responsibility for me. I mean, my responsibility was bigger. And even there, I knew that it's not very popular, that I'm not one of the many public person, you know, who actually tried to respond to this new situation in our lives. But I never felt threatened that much to give up. So the only thing that changed from this time till now is that in that time I thought that my action could actually stop the war and stop the conflicts and stop people to support leaderships, bad leaders and everything else. And I was really, I was suffering. I was in pain when I realized that I'm not that powerful. And, but you know, I don't know how it would be if I live in some country like Finland or, I don't know. I'm sorry for the Finnish people. It's a just example, but where I live, more than half of my life, I live in a political disturbances society. And I can't just sit and say, I mean, it's not my business. I have my own life. I have to think about my career and et cetera, et cetera. So I wanted to be present in this And that's what I think that artists have to be present, like Marina Abramović, like the title of her work. I was present every time. I knew that I'm responsible. And now, especially, when I give up this direct activism, because in one moment, be I realized that I could do more by be involved in certain projects and certain ideas than to go on the street and make speeches in public like I did it in 80s. Now I let the other people do this, speaking on squares and now I'm really strongly divided to this project like this. And also the movies, I'm kind of film director amateur, but I mean, because I want to speak up about the subjects. I think it's important. The good wife is a good wife is a first, and then this folk play. It's about the LGBTQ plus people, and it's going to be great. And I'm so happy, and that's how I'm going to leave my contribution to the culture of my country, and maybe, if I'm lucky, to the culture of the region and the world. So that's how I feel that my part as an artist is involved in politics, because politics is so boring, and it should be boring. I mean, they are boring people who just have to do some bureaucratic things that contribute that whole country functioning, and everything else is not their business to influence media, artists, and everything else. So, but no, they want to control everything. So I oppose this strongly with everything I have, and I'm not afraid to do this. Even with the consequences, I don't care, because it was my choice. And this is the choice of every artist or people who do creative work, to make decision. What do you want? What is your part in this humanity existence? Okay.
Great, thank you. You know, I also find it like really, really important and encouraging everything that you've done and you are doing. And I also think that's the most important thing that you did, actually encourage all of us to be, let's say, brave and to make that decision, to be aware of that position that we have. And
I just want to say that after Grbavica, many people in Belgrade approached me and said, "Oh, you are so brave." And I look at them and said, I thought, I haven't said, what are they talking about? What bravery? I wasn't brave. I was just attracted by the very good story and very good, very nice script, and it wasn't brave. Like I'm an actress. I want to be involved in the good projects, but actually after everything, now I realize why they think that it is brave. But for me, it was normal thing,
Yeah.
because I think it's how it's supposed to be. Sorry.
yeah, but then we learned from you that is normal. So yeah, Professor.
Yeah, I just want to say about Grbavica that what you did actually helped eliminate the stigma. It blew it open, that no one could talk about what happened during the war. What you did is you were a witness to the people that actually endured this suffering, and that sometimes helps people because they can't speak, but you spoke for them in the way you acted. And I'm going to tell you, that's a profound movie. And I was just talking to my student last night about this film because he's doing his paper on what happened to children in Bosnia during the war. And I talked to him and I said, you must now watch Grbavica. You must. And I just want to thank you for what you did, because I know many of the survivors, and I know how difficult it has been for them, and you gave voice to their you gave voice in witnessing, and that is what's called justice, Mirjana. That's what justice is.
Thank you. And now, Natasha, since you are the one that actually viewed the whole Balkans, the first part of your life from the outside, and now you came on the other side, and now you are a part of it. And it's also, I think, that your work is activist work in this way of like education, communication with the younger critics and theoreticians in the Balkans, and also to be in the position to observe everything and to participate in all the festivals and theater making. It's a quite interesting position for you. So can you please tell us more about your perspective on this?
Yeah, absolutely. As someone who's coming from the UK but has a history, has a familial connection with the Balkans, and now lives in Belgrade, I have again a dual perspective on this. I'm working in the field of theatre criticism, which has enabled me to see performances from across the region, and that has been fascinating to see, again, the way that you spoke about resistance. I mean, what that can look like, the different forms that can take, and how performance is part of that in a really kind of granular way. Perhaps I can circle around to what you were saying, Tanya, about your history and your interest in the region, but you're seeing it mainly from New York through films. And that's because even in this huge cosmopolitan city like New York, the amount of international work that's coming tends, if it's European work, it largely tends to be a form of Western European work. If it's not British, then it's coming to places like St. Anne's Warehouse and the sort of BAM. It tends to be the sort of German post-dramatic work, or the sort of Flemish, Dutch sort of avant-garde, with the sort of most famous proponent being Eva van Hove. And there is a hierarchy in terms of programming, in terms of festival, in terms of the international scene, of what's palatable, what's saleable, and often theatre from the Balkans is not part of that. And I think, which is why this festival is so crucial and so valuable, because it is bringing work from the region and from independent spaces outside of the institutional scene to New York audiences. This is a really crucial thing to do. It's also from a critical perspective that I want to talk a little bit about critical responsibility. So I'm the editor of a platform called C-Stage, which is Southeast European theatre. We're covering theatre from the Balkan region, but also from slightly further afield as well, including the Albanian-speaking countries. And it's an English language platform, so it's accessible, it's able to read, and it's a good way of really getting a sense of what that scene looks like, the spectrum of that scene. And we're working with young voices, emerging critics, and to sort of develop a platform for like young critics to find their voices as well, which I think is also really incredibly valuable, to hear those perspectives, to get their insights on the work that's being made. I fundamentally believe that criticism at its best is a process of dialogue, and that this platform is attempting to do that. And that's particularly vital, I think, when talking about this work, which again does not tend to penetrate into the sort of wider European scene as much as it might, and from the decisions of curators and festival programmers, it tends to be sidelined or ghettoized. So again, I think there's real value in a festival like this, and also for like hoping that audiences and indeed critics from New York will engage with it. I think that's a really significant and important thing that I hope we are going to get to see in the next few days. Yeah, I think again that criticism can form part of this kind of model of resistance that we were talking about, because it is about conversation, it is about engaging with artists who are sometimes operating like without large amounts of funding from the independent scene, and the topics that they're talking about, some of the topics that we've been discussing here, that's enormously valuable as well. I do think something what you've articulated already today, that there is this maybe pressure sort of internationally to tell a story that is the war story, and that will be the thing that maybe you'll find the interest in, this sort of, rather than the story that is about living sort of after conflict, what that looks like for the young generation today who are again on the streets, and the reasons that they are there and what they're trying to do and what they're trying to achieve. I think we're like, in terms of the stories that we like to tell, we're bad at long tales. We like conflict and drama, but like this kind of like the day-to-day living in the aftermath of that, and what that looks like, and what that looks like for the younger generations. And again, the sort of the way that the past kind of filters through into the present. This is like a more complicated story to tell, and this, again, it's less. There's less immediate interest in that, and I think that is something that we need to sort of challenge. And I think criticism is something that can do that, and the work that again is being presented here, the choices that are being made, is part of that too. So again, I'm really thankful to Becca for curating and sort of championing this. I think it's an incredibly valuable thing.
Well, thank you. I also think that we have in this program, with the whole 3 videos and the all other texts and live performances, actually we managed to map the political situation in different perspectives, not only in the sense of war, but also conflicts, in patriarchal conflicts, actually, in the wider range, the position of LGBTQ plus community, and also women's. So Becca, would you please tell us more about curating, and maybe to make a connection between, since you also worked in field of film, especially those films from Sarajevo, and maybe to come back with a question about connection of the economical issues with this programming.
Sure. Thank you. Well, thank you, everybody. As I said, we need several days to kind of break the tip of the iceberg called the Balkans, and then really show everything. It was a couple of words on creating this program. Natasha and Dimitrije and myself were the selection committee, and we really studied it, studied everything that has been happening in the Balkans, as we say it in our languages, from the mountain of Triglav in Slovenia all the way down to the river of Vardar in North Macedonia. So there is a saying that you kind of, when you want to pass the whole former Yugoslavia, you say od Vardara do Triglava, okay? So we really examined a great deal, but we also were aware several really, really tough decisions that we had to make. First of all, we absolutely wanted only to be contemporary playwrights and theaters that are live and kicking at this moment, so to say. But we were, in a way, limited in many things. Number one, we were limited in how can we bring the 3 huge sets and 250 costumes to New York. We cannot do that. We were limited to the space that MaMa can offer us, which is amazing, but we can't really bring 3 Aida operas there, so there is no way. And so we had those limitations. We also had the limitations, how can we do it without really resources. And we come, unfortunately, to the fact that everything that we wanted, we had to find dollars for that. It just happened that it is a very difficult situation in the donors' world. The donors were leaving the Balkans for a very long time, as Mirjana and Andrej said. But also in the middle of our fierce fundraising campaign, there was a change of the administration in this country, where we are now, and all of a sudden USAID stopped to exist. So then many foundations that usually help in the region completely changed their focus and went to help those organizations who were left without USAID funds. So we were just like, wow. And then in the middle of that, we really had to struggle for the funds. So we did have a huge financial limitations. And I am going to really use this moment to say that the MaMa Development Department helped a great deal in, flagging some of the donors that we approached. First of all, the Trust for Mutual Understanding, a long-time partner of MaMa and partner in the Balkans. And they gave us, I would say, the first grant that kind of started kicking. And in spite of all this, what I was saying, difficult financial situation in Europe, difficult financial situation in the United States, not to mention the Balkans, we got this first grant thanks to MaMa Development Department. And then the biggest grant actually came from the Rockefeller Brothers Fund, who has programs also in the Balkans. But the money that we got from them was not only from the funding in the Balkans, but also the funding of arts and culture in New York City. So we gain money from two sources within the same foundations. And these are the two actually main foundations that helped us in our fundraising. My foundation, My Balkans, also kicked in with some little money, as much we could scrap from the rest of other projects that we were doing in the last several years. And then I have to say, and that's quoted in the program, a number of individual donors who came, whether it was $100 or 1,000 or even more, some of them. Some of them are anonymous, which is fine. I thank them because without them, without all these milieu, we couldn't do much. And as we say, again, a proverb or whatever it's a saying in Serbian, koliko para toliko muzike, meaning as much money we have, that's how much music you're going to get. So that's exactly what has happened. And everybody is asking me, well, this is edition 1, how about edition 2? And I said, well, okay, we're going to talk about the edition 2 in 2027, maybe, I don't know. Depends, of course, on the financing, depends on MaMa, I'm now saying it loud, depends on many things. The one thing that I'm sure, there is a lot to be shown always from the Balkans, and there is going to be new productions, new ideas, new things, because it was really tough. It was really hard for the three of us to choose what we're bringing here. But I want to make a connection, and back to Mira and her really phenomenal film, Grbavica, one of many phenomenal films that she did. The film was produced and shown in 2006. So after the wars, and it was a groundbreaking not only in the terms of topic, but it was a groundbreaking space for a young Bosnian director, Jasmila Žbanić, who really did a marvelous thing, who then later on, several years ago, directed Quo Vadis Saida, that Tanya mentioned. It was one of the 5 films nominated for the Academy Award for the Best Foreign Film several years ago. But the connection that I want to make between Grbavica and the production that we're premiering tomorrow here, with Mira also in the lead, is that as much Grbavica was groundbreaking in one issue, about a woman who was raped during the war and who is not, it's not easy for her to tell that to the daughter who was born. I won't tell you more, you should see the film. The topic of tomorrow's opening of this festival, the first play, is also a groundbreaking issue because it deals with the Srebrenica genocide. And not only because of that, because also it is written by a brilliant Kosovo playwright. The Doruntina Basha is from Kosovo. It is performed by a Serbian theater in co-production with the Sarajevo War Theater from Sarajevo and my foundation. But also it features 3 amazing actors. Besides Mirjana, who is the lead, we have Svetozar Cvetković, who is here in the audience, who plays her husband. And we have Alban Ukaj, a wonderful actor who is now the full member of the Sartre company, but he originally comes from Kosovo. So we're talking about the regional approach, a regional co-production about a topic which is officially not recognized in the country, Serbia, where this play opened on May 8th, 2025. So again, through this work, through the Artifacts work, we're breaking some barriers. And I hope that many of you will come to see the show. We're playing 5 days in a row and with some matinees. And I hope that this New York Times, who put us there in the paper, will as well come and review the show, because it is brilliant.
Thank you. Is there something else that you want? Okay, I guess we are done with this panel for today. Maybe is there any question from the audience here, not online, but here? No?
We only take online questions.
Okay. Yeah, there is one question here. Okay. Okay, you can.
Of course. Thank you. First of all, thank you so much for being here, and I have always questioned myself in terms when come people from our region, then we are kind of stereotyped by geography, not by the quality individual in terms where we come from and how magic is where we're born, and how we can highlight our quality beyond of just geography itself. But my question is this: so I know we can't distance ourselves from politics, because politics every day. But we as a human, we have to be sensitive towards injustice and any form of it, and we can transform that in the arts and different type of arts and stuff. But how much politics can use art for propaganda? Thank you.
I'm sorry, could you just, for the sake of this, just recognize who you are?
Hi,
we haven't heard that. Yes.
Thank you so much. I am a contemporary artist. I'm from Kosovo. I live in New York. My name is Sizli Jaffa. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, can you?
But the art is used for propaganda. There is no can or may or and then the key question is how to recognize when something is part of that. And we see it now, even when we were flying back here in the plane, we had some of the mechanisms of that propaganda in our boxes on the screens. What I'm trying to say is that it's not the biggest it is very huge problem that there are produced movies and also theater plays and also books and also narratives trying to defend some of the, I would say, bloody Balkan perspectives. But the key problem is what is on the other side of that? What is and what are the resources on the other side to fight that propaganda? Because recognizing it that it's propaganda, it doesn't stop people from watching it, it doesn't stop people from enjoying it and getting engaged with it. But big problem comes when we come to the other side, to something what is not propaganda, that there is no enough resources, enough communities, enough connections. There is a lot of, how to say, empty space in that direction. And you know, we, especially with situation now, even in this country, but in the whole Western perspective, with all of our privileges comparing to the rest of the world, you know, we sometimes, you know, we are so used to some of the propagandas which we survive every day around. And in many other countries with many other artists, you know, when we try to explain to them what is going on, Mira Finnish example, the Finland example, we are like, oh, we want to have this type of problems. So that propaganda or misuse of the art is the only problem we face now. I think we're going to manage that.
Thank you, Andrej.
Thanks.
So thank you everyone for being here and also to everyone online. And we are calling you, all of you, to come here to La MaMa and to see our shows. Thank you.
Come, it's beautiful.